Well, we finally heard from the new Ayatollah. He said he wants you to go to WeatherCon on Saturday. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show, just having a little fun. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WPAP. I would play you the audio of the new Ayatollah giving his speech, but two reasons I'm not. Number one, you don't speak Farsi. Your Farsi's terrible. Don't worry, mine is too. Number two, he didn't actually deliver it. It was a written statement that was handed off to a news presenter, and some news anchor read it. In it, he's talking a lot of smack, but it means nothing. You know, all the smack talk, all the bluster. If you're not even willing to stick out your head and read your own message yourself, it couldn't even be like a pre-recorded message of you in some cave somewhere. Now, why is that? I think the easiest answer to that is number one, overwhelmingly, he's messed up right now. He might have just like bandages all over his face still, or he might have some big scar, or who knows, he might have been all burnt up and he looks like Emperor Palpatine. We don't know. The second one is he doesn't want to give anyone any clues as to where he's at before he gets bombed again. So it sounds like the Iranian message was pretty much, yeah, America, we want you to go ahead and give up now. We're winning the war, so you might as well concede. And no, that's not the reality at all. So you don't learn a whole lot from the actual contents of the message, but all the context around it that I just told you is the real news. Donald Trump was asked about this yesterday. Broke it down into 3 concise clips for you.
Mr. President, regarding Iran, how long are you prepared to maintain the blockade? Could that go several more months?
Well, the blockade is genius, okay? The blockade has been 100% foolproof. It shows how good our Navy is, I can tell you that. Nobody's going to play games. We have the greatest military in the world, and I built much of it during my first term, and we've been building it since. And the greatest anywhere in the world, nobody even close. And you see that, whether it's Venezuela, and they have a good military in Venezuela, but it was over in one day. It was actually over in about 48 minutes. Iran, the same thing. I mean, militarily, we've wiped them out. They have no military left. It's all, the Navy's at the bottom of the sea. The Air Force is never going to fly again. We've got an amazing military. Now they have to cry uncle. That's all they have to do. Just say, we give up. We give up. But their economy is really in trouble. So it's a dead economy.
Yeah, what's the cry uncle? Is that a Yankee thing? Because I heard that on TV growing up. I saw that in movies, like in the Christmas Story. Cry uncle, uncle, when the bully's picking on him. We didn't say that down here. We didn't cry uncle. What did we say? What did we say instead of uncle? Stop it. Get off me. I quit. I give. But yeah, cry uncle. So he's using schoolyard vernacular here. Doesn't matter. The guy you're trying to get the message to is so tore up from the floor up, he's not even putting himself on TV. So I don't know what's going to happen from here, but Trump is now insisting that whatever the deal is, the sticking point is going to be no nuclear weapons. And I just don't know how he's going to do that without either the Iranians saying, okay, here it is, or us putting boots on the ground. So a voluntary secession of your nuclear program and the handing over of the uranium, that doesn't seem very likely. The boots on the ground, I don't want that. So I don't like the two options here, but this is the insistence.
During the blockade, get Iran to nuclear talks fast enough, or do you think another wave of strikes will be necessary?
I don't know. It depends. We have talks. We're having talks with them now, and we're not flying anymore with 18-hour flights every time we want to see a piece of paper. We're doing it telephonically, and it's very nice. I make a call, or I have my people make a call, and you know the answer. I always like face-to-face. I consider it better. But when you have to fly 18 hours every time you want to have a meeting, and you know what the meeting's all about, and you know they're going to give you a piece of paper that you don't like before you even leave, it's ridiculous. They've come a long way. The question is whether or not they're going to go far enough. So at this moment, there will never be a deal unless they agree that there will be no nuclear weapons.
All right, so while I admit right now that that's a stretch, the idea that the Ayatollahs are going to hand this over, I don't see that happening. Now, what do we do? Could we come up with sort of like a head fake peace deal where we're like, okay, we're on good terms, and then you wait for the Ayatollah to stick his head out of the ground, and then you give him one of the old, America birthday presents, and then you negotiate with the next guy? Why am I trying to like that one? Because that's what's going to happen. If we don't get a good deal, we don't make them turn over the uranium, we're just going to be in this position here in a year or 2 years or whatever, and then they're going to be causing a fuss and funding terrorists, and there's going to be another October 7th, and we're going to just have to start all over, and it's like, oh, God, here come the Americans. We're going to be doing this again. So while we've already got this table set, let's just go ahead and finish the game. He was actually asked a good question by Brooke Rollins of CNN. Wait, or is she MSNBC? She's CNN, right? I get it mixed up. I think she's CNN. I'm not trying to be disrespectful here because she actually asked a good question. And Donald Trump was so thrown off by the good question, he didn't even answer it at first, but then she circled back and asked it again. And he's right. It's a pretty good question. What do you think will end first? The war with Ukraine and Russia or with us and Iran?
Which war would end first? I don't know. Maybe they're on a similar timetable. I think Ukraine, militarily, they're defeated, okay? You wouldn't know that by reading the fake news, but militarily, look, their Navy. So they had 159 ships. Every ship is right now underwater. Typically, that's pretty good. What do you think, Jared? I mean, it's going to be hard for them to make a naval comeback. Okay, now they have an Air Force. Every one of their planes has been shot down or has been decimated. In addition, their economy is crashing. As you know, their money, they call it their money, they don't have a name for it. Their money is valueless. They've got inflation that nobody's ever seen before. Other than that, I think they're doing quite well.
Coming up next on the James Show, retired Colonel Wes Martin will share some of the X's and O's with the latest updates on the U.S.-Iran war. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, we finally heard from Iran. So the Iran war's back in the news. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. You're home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. Three funny guys that are on right before the James Show, and they were talking about this a little bit today. My next guest, Colonel Wes Martin, coming back on the James Show. And Colonel, the message, the content of what was read in the message from the Ayatollah and then translated into English didn't interest me as much as the fact that he didn't deliver it himself. He still hasn't shown himself in public, and he had to hand off a written statement for someone else to read. What do you glean from this, Colonel? Do we have any proof of life on this guy? So are you on, if I put you on a 50-50 scale, which side are you on that the current Ayatollah, claimed Ayatollah, is alive? Right? Well, would they hide him from the public if he just had a superficial wound? Like if his face was messed up and they thought, well, this is bad PR and this makes the Islamic Republic look weak. Yeah, we call that street cred out where I'm from. So that's wild. Okay, so when we have the latest claiming that Trump is saying we're not going to get a deal without the uranium, I have no military experience, but from my observation, there's only two ways we get it at this point. Either they voluntarily hand it over, which seems possible but not probable, or we have to put boots on the ground to go get it ourselves. Is there a third option I'm missing? Yeah, well, how do you know our story, sir? You're really tugging at our heart. Are you a Texan, Colonel Wes Martin? Oh, close enough. All right. Well, howdy, neighbor. Nice. Well, Colonel Wes Martin, why hasn't there been a people's uprising in Iran? How much longer do you think Iran can suffer the blockade? All right, Colonel Wes Martin, where can we find some of your work online? Yep, and your websites. Like I just did that, and your website was the first thing to pop up. Colonel Wes Martin, I appreciate it, sir. Your insights are welcome on the James Show. Coming up next, Donald Trump is taking questions from reporters right now. A couple of them, the questions have been about Iran. I'll go cue that up for you. And we have Pete Hegseth giving the media hell for calling it a quagmire. I'm James Parker. This is the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. President Trump answering some questions right now from reporters. He came out and he signed an executive order on financial retirement savings, something to that effect. And immediately the questions, most of them are about the Iran war. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. You are listening to The James Show, and I'm going to let you hear some of this. I was just listening to this on the commercial break on your behalf. Here's a good part that I think you'd want to hear. First question about Iran. Didn't even start to be about Iran. It started to be about the economy, and he was kind of scoreboarding. Stock market's doing well. The GDP number came in today, 2% growth in the first quarter. So that's kind of amazing, which means no recession. Remember, you were told a year ago that we'd be in a recession and the stock market was crashing, never to recover, is ruining people's retirement, and here it is better than it was when they said it. But he kind of dovetailed into this, saying, look, all this good economic news is happening while we're in the middle of a hot war.
The country's doing really well. And that's despite a military operation. I don't call it a war. We'd rather have a military operation. We're really, I mean, Iran is dying to make a deal. I can only tell you that. I don't want to get into it, but they cannot be nuclear other than that. But they are, their Navy's gone, their Air Force is gone. Every ounce of any form of equipment practically is gone. You know, their drone factories are about 82% down, and their missile factories are almost 90% down. And many of their missiles have been knocked out. They use some, but we knocked out more than they used. And it's pretty amazing what's happening. They want to make a deal. But despite the fact that we are in what some people would call a war, we just hit a new high today on the stock market. We have S&P is through the roof. They're through the roof. And you know, when we hit 50,000 on the Dow and 7,000 on the S&P, I said to myself, we got to do something about Iran. They want to have a nuclear weapon. You can't let them have a nuclear weapon. And I hated to do it to my people because they said 50,000. Peter, you know this, that 50,000 wouldn't be obtainable in my 4 years or anybody's 4 years. And we had 50,000 in my first year. The end of my first year, we had 7,000 on the S&P. They said that would be even less attainable, and we had that at the end of the first year, before the year was up.
So he is putting these two things together, and I think it makes sense to do so. Now, let me go ahead and throw out 1,000 caveats to stave off the emails and Facebook messages I'm going to get. I do not support Trump and everything. I'm not just a brown-nosing sycophant over here. I disagree with almost everything he's doing. I just don't think he's literally Hitler. I wouldn't have done this war. I wouldn't have done this budget. I don't like the omnibus that got pushed through to end the shutdown. You know, the shutdown deal that happened back in November. But you don't have to call it a quagmire. You don't have to lie about our troops. You don't have to give aid and comfort and support to the enemy. And you're not going to hear me do that. I disagree with this war, but I'm not going to sit there and give them straight up propaganda that they can use. Not that I'm in the position where they would clip what I say and use it against me, but I'm not cheering against our troops. And so this is what Pete Hegseth was talking about yesterday. The biggest adversary that he has right now in the Iran war, and really making a deal and ending the Iran war, the Democrats are blocking all those paths.
We're the best negotiator in the world driving that deal. The biggest challenge, the biggest adversary we face at this point are the reckless, feckless, and defeatist words of congressional Democrats and some Republicans 2 months in, I remind you, 2 months in to a conflict.
Now, I'm not saying that I know what's going on behind closed doors, and you don't either, but you can easily imagine the scenario where there's some dudes over in Iran who are in bathrobes and they're in some underground tunnel system, scared that the next rumble that they hear is going to be their base collapsing in on them. They can't even go outside because they know anytime they can see the clear blue sky, our drones can see them, and they're pretty much wishing death upon themselves. And maybe they're about to give up. But they hear Chuck Schumer call it a quagmire, or they hear Elizabeth Warren say that we're losing, or we hear AOC or whoever else, just anybody on MSNBC talk about how good Iran's doing, how this is totally unwinnable, how this is a terrible mistake. I mean, anybody can see how that would easily embolden your enemies. Also, they know that if they can just hurt Trump a little bit, there's a midterm coming up, and their enemy will be bogged down with impeachment hearings and adversarial internecine politics instead of the war, maybe as soon as November. So if they can just chill for about 6 more months, things might work out for them. But Pete Hegseth is right. Shame on you if you call it a quagmire.
The way you stain the troops when you tell them 2 months in, Congressman, you should know better. Shame on you. Calling this a quagmire 2 months in. The effort, what they've undertaken, what they've succeeded, the success on the battlefield that could create strategic opportunities, the courage of a president to confront a nuclear Iran, and you call it a quagmire, handing propaganda to our enemies. Shame on you for that statement. And statements like that are reckless to our troops. Don't say I support the troops on one hand, and then a 2-month mission is a quagmire.
Coming up next on the James Show, we're going to go back in time. We're going to do a flashback in the Audiotron 3000 and see how that exact approach was used in the Iraq War and then how accurate their predictions turned out to be. Of course, you're going to love it, or I wouldn't be playing it on the James Show next. 800-288-9227. You'll get a lesson in history from Evan Sayet Audio on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
And then I said to Kevin, sorry about this, Kevin, but we have to put out a fire. And the fire is taking place in the lovely country of Iran. And they want to have a nuclear weapon. And if we didn't use this beautiful, see that plane right there? That beautiful B-2 bomber. It looks small there, but it's actually quite, it doesn't look very powerful there, but it's quite large, actually. We ordered 25 more of them, the updated version. All built in America, which is very nice, right? But if we didn't have that B-2 bomber, if we didn't go in and do what we did, we obliterated that nuclear capacity of theirs, and so they didn't get the nuclear bomb. If we didn't do that attack, should have been done long before I came along by other presidents or by another country or something, but it should have been done long before I came along. But they are in very bad shape. And they've got nothing going, including leadership. I mean, their leaders are gone. Now they have a whole new, their first string leaders are gone. Their second string leaders are gone. Now we're dealing with their third string. But we'll see what happens. It's been an amazing period of time between Venezuela and where we're doing great. We're getting along with them great. We're working very closely with them. They're doing more oil now than they've done in many, many decades, actually. And they're making more money, and so are we. It's like a joint venture, to be honest. And we've paid for the attack many times over. The attack, something you've never heard before, probably. I always used to say to the victor belong the spoils, but we've paid for the attack, which is always expensive. But it was a less than 1 day attack. It was actually a 45-minute attack. And that's a good, they have a good military in Venezuela, but they did not expect that and that and that and that. Other than that. But when these suckers come at you at 2,500 miles an hour, at 25 feet off the ground, you say, this is not what I bargained for. This is no good. Anyway, and now, Venezuela was amazing, but now we're doing, essentially, it's larger, but we're doing essentially the same thing in Iran. We can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon. And their economy is crashing. The blockade is incredible. The power of the blockade is incredible. They're not getting any money from oil. And hopefully it can be worked out very soon. Yeah.
Iran is proving to be very stubborn. The talks seem like they are stalled. Are you getting antsy to break the ceasefire?
Well, I mean, I don't know what stubborn is, because really nobody knows what the talks are except my.
Are you getting?
Hopefully it can be worked out very soon. Yeah.
Let's talk about this word quagmire. It finally appeared in the media. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker, on your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. They do a lot of stories you're not going to hear anywhere else. Check them out. All right, so we're going to go back in time here because it finally happened, and I was expecting this. You might have been expecting this. If you weren't expecting this, then maybe you're new to talk radio and paying attention to the news, and that's totally okay. Let me show you how much I was expecting this. Do you remember going to war against Iraq? And the invasion of Baghdad, it took like 3 weeks, but a couple weeks into it, the New York Times was calling it a quagmire. In fact, I don't think you really appreciate in hindsight how absolutely atrocious the reporting was from the media. You feel like the media now is worse than ever. I'm not sure if it was worse than it was when it was reporting on our invasion of Iraq. Because we had Abu Ghraib, a series of pranks and hijinks against some prisoners of war where no one was killed, no one was hurt, no one was maimed, no one was injured. It was kind of embarrassing, but it was on the front page of the New York Times for 42 days straight. You understand how bad that is? Evan Sayet gave a speech in 2013 where he went back and he reviewed from 10 years before, now that we had a little bit of hindsight, what it looked like and how silly it looked. Because by the time 2013 had rolled around, not only was there not a quagmire, we knew we rolled Baghdad over in about a month. They had elections not too far after that, and it's been, by Middle East standards, pretty stable and peaceful country with, all the air quotes and caveats that come with being a Middle East country. But this was Evan Sayet talking about this 13 years ago. So I'm not surprised. I was waiting for this to happen.
Because if your source for intelligence during the first battle to liberate the people of Iraq was the New York Times, you were being told that our forces were pinned down, that it was a bloodbath. They even used the Q word, folks. Talk to me, I'm here. It was a quagmire. When our forces arrived in Baghdad 3 weeks later, it was in fact the culmination of the swiftest military victory of its kind in all of human history. Never before in human history had that much enemy territory been traversed in so short a period of time. Quagmire was in fact the swiftest military victory of its kind in all of human history. If CNN had been your source for intelligence leading up to the first democratic vote in Iraq, lowercase d, you were being told that our mission was a failure, that the streets were chaotic, that virtually no one would go out and vote, and those who did would be mowed down by Al-Qaeda. What then happened? Exactly the opposite. Millions of people went out and voted. A higher percentage of Iraqis voted in that election than Americans voted in our own election, which had taken place only a few weeks prior. Not only did millions of Iraqis go out and vote, they dipped their fingers in purple and they danced in the streets for hours. And to my knowledge, not a single one, not one, was killed by Al-Qaeda on that day. We can go on and on. The Tea Party movement is a handful of violent kooks, while the Occupy Wall Street movement is a mass movement of thoughtful and loving and caring, peaceful people. No matter what it is, it's diametrically opposed to the truth, always to the advantage of the evil, failed, and wrong. So the question becomes why?
Yes. So the ability of your statements and your proclamations to stand the test of time is probably the best litmus test you can give your worldview. And you just saw how the reporting, the worldview of the New York Times and just the standard Team Blue media, politicians, academia, celebrities, musicians, they were all falling on their face in the record of history by saying all that. And the things that Evan Sayet was saying 13 years ago still stand up just as fine today. That is a beautiful test on whether or not you have the correct worldview. How does it stand up through time? And you heard some obvious parallels there. At the very end, did you hear The Tea Party is branded as this hateful, racist, bigoted group of people you got to look out for. They're dangerous. But the Occupy Wall Street crowd was super nice. This is the same thing they're doing now. Look out for MAGA. Look out for domestic terrorists. Look out for white supremacists, white rural rage. Meanwhile, BLM and Antifa, no, they're fine. They're not terrorists at all. They're great. What are you talking about? These are the freedom fighters. These are the good guys. Also, President Trump was asked a good question by Steve Ducey during the break. I paused it on my DVR over here. I thought you'd like this exchange. This is live now.
Iran is proving to be very stubborn. The talks seem like they are stalled. Are you getting antsy to break the ceasefire?
Well, I mean, I don't know what stubborn is because really nobody knows what the talks are except myself and a couple of other people. They want to make a deal badly. We have a problem because nobody knows for sure who the leaders are. It's a little bit of a problem. The leaders have been wiped out along with their military, almost all of their military. Think of it, 159 ships was their total Navy. 159 ships are gone. They're underwater. They're way below sea level. Sea level. It's a big difference. It's pretty deep waters over there too. So I don't know that we need it. We might need it.
And on Iran, a little while ago, the president of FIFA said that when the World Cup is here in the U.S., the team from Iran will be playing in the games.
Well, if Johnny said it, I'm okay. Did Johnny say it?
He did.
All
right. So that's the latest. I just wanted to let you hear that because he was saying that on the last break. He finally stopped talking to reporters just a couple minutes ago. So I pulled that off the DVR for you just to keep you as up to date as I possibly can. Those previous comments you were hearing from Evan Say, that was him at the Heritage Foundation in 2013. Someone sent me a message about that. If you want to watch the rest of it, it's on YouTube. Also, make it a summer of live music. Get $30 tickets to some of the hottest shows this year, like Jimmy Eat World, Guns N' Roses, Billy Idol, Motley Crue, Tim McGraw, more. Offer runs through May 5th, 1 week only. Go to liveNation.com/Summer of Live, not Summer of Love, /Summer of Live to get this special deal for WBAP listeners. Coming up next on The James Show, Carlos Tercios, the local independent reporter, has an analysis of a Fort Worth City Council meeting that ended with a whole bunch of boos. You'll hear it next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, they told me about it. We'll see.
Mr. President, thank you, Mr. President. There's been some talks about changes to your security after what took place.
Changing my security.
Changing your security after what took place.
Well, they did a pretty good job, actually. You know, they stopped the NFL running back. I mean, he was like a running back. In fact, if he ever got out, they're probably going to sign him. He was no good or something in front of me. They were powerful-looking guys. I said, the problem is that and you have the elevators coming down right near the entrance. It's a budget depending on finishes, you know, of security. So I think, I know the people at Secret Service, I think they're great. And I think the Congress has to take care of those people. You know, we're talking about ICE, we're talking about Border Patrol, Secret Service, everyone. The Democrats essentially want to defund the police, just so you know. That's right. They want to defund law enforcement. It's crazy. These people have gone crazy. I heard Hakeem Jeffries, a low IQ person, he's a very low IQ, screaming today that the Supreme Court is illegitimate. I mean, that's a dangerous statement. Then if I say something modest, they say, oh, he's a king, he's a king. They're sick. But Hakeem Jeffries said the Supreme Court is illegitimate. That's a rough statement. If I made that statement, it would be the biggest story out there. Bad things would happen.
One of the ideas.
The average price of a gallon of gas is now $4.30
All right,
in this country.
And you know what? And we're not going to have a nuclear weapon in the hands of Iran. The gas will go down. As soon as the war's over, it'll drop like a rock. There's so much of it. It's all over the place, sitting all over the oceans of the world. And it'll go down. But what won't happen is if Iran had a nuclear weapon and used it, then the whole world is a different place.
What about
You're
the
not going to have to
pictures?
pay a
Impact
little
on
bit more for
Republicans?
gasoline. The gasoline, the oil will go down rapidly as soon as the war is over.
Good to see you again, sir. I've got two questions. First, I want to follow up on Daniel's question. I've described you as the peacemaker. You're achieving peace around the world. Due to these latest policies, big beautiful bill, no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, now the Trump account, and then the IRA account, could we describe you as the wealth maker?
Well, I'm helping people out. It's a nice question, actually, but I'm helping people. These people are with me. You know, these are great people, and feel free to speak up if you'd like, because they wanted this to happen, and we got it done. And they're Republican people, I think, in all cases, right? In all cases.
Well, I got some good news on the fight against DEI in North Texas. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I know, good to see you too. My next guest is a semi-regular on the James Show. He wears a lot of hats. He's with the Tarrant County Republican Party. He's with the Dallas Express as a freelance writer. He's also part of For Liberty and Justice, which has an event coming up we'll tell you about later. But Carlos Tercios, back on the James Show. Welcome back, Carlos. Well, I saw that you got some video from the Fort Worth ISD meeting this week where they voted to end DEI. Did I get that correct? I just heard everyone griping after the vote came in. Well, that's fantastic. I also like some of the stuff you're sharing on your X feed over here about, in your tweet from 2 hours ago. Our labor laws are being abused by third world aliens who come here with foreign visas. We talk about that a lot on the James Show, and you keep coming up with new examples from different independent journalists. It's good stuff. Yeah, you know what? That was another piece of news that I just saw today. About 4 hours ago, Ken Paxton announced an official investigation into a lot of these businesses that we were talking about earlier this week, where Sarah Gonzalez goes and knocks on the door. Hey, 55 H-1B workers work here. This looks like a regular house. And he's like, no, you're at the wrong address. They go to the address and it's an empty building. So yeah, it's pretty blatant. And it's not just that people are stealing money or gaming the system. I think a lot of us are just really disgusted with how easy it is. All right, coming up next weekend, my guest Carlos Tercios through his group for Liberty and Justice. You guys have a night of action, but it's starting at 2:00 in the afternoon. Ken Paxton and Kyle Rittenhouse at the same event. That's Saturday, May 9th, 2 p.m. Mercy Culture Church in Fort Worth. If you want more, follow Carlos Tercios on X and all the other socials, because a lot of times you're going to hear stories a few hours before you hear them on the James Show. Carlos Tercios, thank you very much for all your hard work. Thank you very much. There he is, Carlos Tercios. Coming up next, this James Comey story. While I don't like the idea that he's being indicted for threatening the life of the president, his excuse, his alibi is such a lie. It's like, well, we should throw him in jail just for being this big of a bald-faced liar. You'll hear it next on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, so is James Comey going to go to jail finally? I don't think so, but it's a fun story. I'm James Parker. You're listening to The James Show on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hard to believe this goober was in charge of the FBI previously. And it's hard to believe in the transition from Obama to Trump that Trump kept this guy around. You know, one of the biggest complaints against Trump that I think even his biggest supporters have no defense for is how some of the people he's hired and kept on at jobs just didn't work out well. And, you know, it's an impossible job. The president has to make, I think, something around 4,000 appointments. I don't even know 4,000 people well enough. So he has to take recommendations from other people. And this is one of the big ones here. Before we get into today's James Comey news, just to show you what a shady piece of garbage this man is, we're going to go back to, this is July 5th of 2016. James Comey has been the FBI head for years now under Obama, and he is doing an investigation into Hillary's email scandal. And then he has this crazy press conference where he goes out and he spells out chapter and verse where not only Hillary Clinton did illegal things, but also Hillary Clinton lied about very other specific legal things. And at the end of that press conference, he said he's not going to charge her with a crime. It was one of the wildest things you've seen in your life, or at least in my talk radio career, how someone would just came out and admitted broke law after law after law after law after law, but we're not going to press charges because no reasonable what? So Reason Magazine, now Reason.com, put together the perfect montage of James Comey's press conference versus Hillary's own statements. And this goes back to July 5th, 2016, 10 years ago.
I did not email any classified material to anyone. There is no classified material.
110 emails in 52 email chains have been determined by the owning agency to contain classified information at the time they were sent or received.
I provided all my emails that could possibly be work-related.
Several thousand work-related emails that were not among the group of 30,000 emails returned by Secretary Clinton.
I thought using one device would be simpler.
She also used numerous mobile devices to send and to read email.
There were no security breaches.
It is possible that hostile actors gained access to Secretary Clinton's personal email account.
It was my practice to communicate with State Department and other government officials on their .gov accounts.
The hostile actors gained access to the private commercial email accounts of people with whom Secretary Clinton was in regular contact from her personal account.
No doubt that we've done exactly what we should have done.
They were extremely careless in their handling of very sensitive, highly classified information.
People will be able to judge for themselves.
We cannot find a case that would support bringing criminal charges on these facts.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
To be clear, this is not to suggest that in similar circumstances, a person who engaged in this activity would face no consequences.
Americans will find that, interesting, and I look forward to having a discussion about that.
Mind-blowing stuff there. So this is the guy we're talking about now. That's him. 10 years ago, that's what he was doing. He immediately turned around, and months later, Trump won the election, kept him on as FBI director, and he is the guy who leaked the info, the false info, to the press to start the whole Russia collusion hoax. What the heck? Okay, now we go to today's situation, and he's already facing charges for lying under oath, for lying to a congressional hearing, and that was about where he lied about sharing the information. He later admitted that in interviews. Now he's been re-indicted again, and I think he's going to have to turn himself in and technically get rearrested and rebooked or whatnot. But this is for making a death threat against the president. The way it manifested itself is James Comey posted on social media a picture of seashells arranged on the beach that said 8647. And that means get rid of 47. And does that raise to the level of a threat against the president? I mean, I doubt it, but a grand jury disagreed with me and dropped the charges. last year, he was explaining the 8647 post because he took it down real quick. And his story does not add up.
We were walking on the beach. We went to the beach to prepare for this week, which was the launch of my book, and to think about the book and to prepare to answer questions about it. And we were walking back towards the road, and we saw in the sand someone had arranged shells with numbers. And Patrice, my wife, said, "Why would someone put an address in the sand?" And I said, "I don't know." And we stood over it, and I said, "I think it's some kind of like political message." And she said, 86, when I was a server, she did a lot of work in restaurants, meant to remove an item from the menu when you ran out of ingredients. And I said, well, to me, as a kid, it always meant to leave a place, to ditch a place. I said, that's really clever. So then she said, you should take a picture of that. And I did. And then I posted it on my Instagram account and thought nothing more of it until I heard through her that people were saying it was some sort of a call for assassination, which is crazy. But I took it down. Even if I think it's crazy, I don't want to be associated with violence of any kind.
That stupid nervous laugh is the same thing Hillary does, same thing Kamala does, same thing my friend Jeff Mullen does, same thing. I do it sometimes. You laugh when you're nervous. You probably do it sometimes, or when you're saying I'm not saying he's necessarily lying, but there's something specific about that story where he was pretending like this was funny and it really wasn't funny and he was forcing it. And you heard it too. Is that believable to anybody? We were walking along the beach. You're not going to believe this. Someone just made 4 letters that spell out a political statement that I wholeheartedly agree with, but if I admitted I wrote that down, would be evidence to use against me in a trial because this means something that's really bad, and here's my goofy story that is not a believable story. Jeepers, look at that. Why would somebody write an address on the beach? Because they didn't. No one wrote 8647 and then walked off into the night. You know why I know? Because if someone did that, they would have taken a picture of it, put it on their social media, and then they would have seen the news report and they would have been like, oh yeah, I did that. Anybody step up? It's because he's lying. He's lying through his nasty little corrupt, dirty teeth. And he's a liar because you heard the previous montage. So Donald Trump was asked about this yesterday, the whole 8647 commentary.
This morning, James Comey was in court. He self-surrendered. He's now been charged a second time. This time over a social media post with seashells that said 8647. Do you really think that he was endangering your life or threatening your life with that?
Well, if anybody knows anything about crime, they know 86. You know what 86? It's a mob term for kill 'em. You ever see the movies? 86 'em. The mobster says to one of his wonderful associates, 86 'em. That means kill 'em. It's, I think of it as a mob term. I don't know, people think of it as something having to do with disappearing, but the mob uses that term to say when they want to kill somebody, they say 86, the son of a gun. I'm trying to keep the language nice and clear. They don't use that term, son of a gun. They use another term. But that's a mob term for kill 'em, yeah.
But do you really think your life was in danger?
Probably, I don't know, based on what I'm seeing.
Isn't that a bold question? Do you really think your life was in danger? Oh, you're the guy that's been shot at just like on Saturday? Yeah, you think your life is in danger? Man who has had 3 assassination attempts in the last 2 years? Why would you feel like your life is in danger? Just because Charlie Kirk was shot in front of all of us? Just because we've had how many attacks on ICE facilities around here? We had the Alvarado in Dallas and McAllen just in our own backyard. Yeah, why would you think the left would be violent? I mean, why would you jump to that weird conclusion? What a weirdo. Look, I think it's a stretch to charge him with a crime for saying 8647, but you and I damn well know what it means. It wasn't like the restaurant is out of sharp cheddar cheese, and so we got to take that off the menu. You weren't saying take Trump off the menu because we're out of him. You were saying get rid of him, just like they do say in mob movies. Oh, you want to hear that next? Fine. You'll hear in mob movies where they say 86. So he's not making it up. Because right now, if you go on social media, you'll see a bunch of people who are pretending to not know that. They're saying, oh my gosh, I've never heard that in mob movies. That always was a restaurant term for me. I think he's just making it up. I've never seen one mob movie where they use the term 86. He's dumb. Okay, fine. I'll play it next. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Fine. It was in the movie Casino, if you must know. It was in the movie Casino. One of the examples everyone's passing around. Has a lot of cuss words in it. I don't want to play the whole scene. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. If you're just walking in the middle of this movie, James Comey has been indicted for threatening the president with a social media post that was fairly benign. It was an ugly message. It's dirty. Does it count as a threat against the president? I don't think so. But a grand jury disagrees with me, and 86-47. The argument says that he was saying was that's a food service term. You know, when you take something off the menu, when you run out of an ingredient. Oh, did we run out of the ingredient Trump, and so we're going to take him off the menu? Or did you mean that in the get rid of him 86 term, like the mob uses? Or his excuse doesn't make sense. The idea that he didn't put the shells in the number sequence to begin with is not believable. Oh, jeepers, we just happened across these 4 letters that happen to spell what many people could interpret to be a threat against the president, or at least a wish of harm against the president. So no, I don't think he should be indicted. I don't think it's a crime, but definitely he meant 86 Trump, as in get rid of Trump. Brent in Lake Weatherford, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
James, all I can tell you is that when Bill Clinton got in there, he fired everybody across the board in the White House. He fired the maids. He fired the motor pool. He got rid of everybody. And that's where, and I didn't have any way to get a hold of Trump when he got in there, because I knew, being a political science junkie all my life, that was going to happen to him. And that's exactly what happened to him in his first term. He's finally, he's a very smart man, but that's why Bill Clinton excelled the way he did. And of course, Trump's a negotiator, but I'm just saying that's how Bill Clinton did things, and Trump didn't in his first term. And of course, now he's trying to get back.
Yeah, Brent, I think a lot of people remember that because that came up in Trump's first term when he got rid of some prosecutors. And people were saying, well, he's selectively, for political reasons, firing these prosecutors, and that's wrong. And you're right. It was immediately brought up. I'm sorry. On Bill Clinton's first day in office, he fired every acting attorney general that wasn't a Democrat.
Absolutely.
So
he absolutely. He fired he even got rid of some of the Democrats. Clinton, he knew. Well, we know Bill Clinton. That's Forrest Gump would say. That's all I got to say about that.
So this whole James Comey situation, do you think he should be charged with a crime for the 86-47 social media post? Does that count as a threat against the president? Oh, I guess he just dropped off. All right, I'll ask you. Do you think that counts as a threat against the president? Because I feel like most of America, who isn't totally just sucked into the political polarization, can have both things be true. Number one, James Comey did mean he was hoping for Donald Trump to get taken out. I think he intentionally left it vague enough that it could be interpreted as not as I'm encouraging someone to murder the president. But when we are not even 1 week away from the last assassination attempt, what were we talking about Monday and Tuesday on the James Show? We've got to stop with all the hot political rhetoric. We've got to tone it down. We've got to stop saying things that make crazy people like Cole Allen think it's acceptable to shoot at the president. And so now James Comey runs afoul of that moral and ethics, but is it illegal? I don't think so. However, what a scumbag to sit there and lie about it. Oh, jeepers, we just came across these four numbers in the sand. No, you didn't. That's not believable. And my wife's like, well, why would someone write an address in there? That doesn't make any sense either. You see 4 numbers, you think of an address? BS. You wrote that and you're like, well, how else could this be interpreted? And now you're telling this false story to backfill so you don't sound guilty. Because you know what the truth is. He went out there, he wrote 8647 because he thought it'd sound cool because he hates Trump and he's a never Trumper and all his friends are never Trumpers and the people he goes to cocktail parties with hate Trump and all his friends on Facebook hate Trump and all the people in his group chats hate Trump. And so he was just going to be the cool kid in the room. 8647. Isn't that clever? See what I did, guys? And then he erased it and made up some bogus story about it. We're just surrounded by lowlifes You realize that, right? We are surrounded by liars. But one of the frustrating parts about this is how many people aren't even putting the obvious clues together. And I think just to brag on my own generation a little bit, I think Gen X can really nail this down better than the boomers, better than the millennials. Gen Z is actually pretty promising, the people under the boomers. But we just do something more and more often than the millennials and the boomers do. Gen X is good at this thing called critical thinking.
Oh God, another thing that was crazy about Generation X, I don't even know if you can talk about this anymore, but we did this thing, it is so weird, okay. It was called critical thinking, and it's so crazy. So basically what you would do, this is like in the old days, you would listen to both sides of a story or a topic or an issue, and then you would make your own, this is crazy, you'd make your own opinion that would then guide you through life.
Yes, Gen X, we are wild. Critical thinking. You should try it. No, I'm not saying you should try it. I'm saying people who don't listen to the James Shaw already, this outside world, the one that thinks maybe men can have babies or the earth is flat or socialism is better than capitalism. You should try that. 800-288-9227. Everyone who threatens Trump, should they get charged with a crime? I'll say no, but I'll explain myself next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Does anybody believe the Comey story about the 8647? I mean, you shouldn't. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. You're home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. They don't believe the story either. You should listen to them from 11 to 2. This is Jenny in Collinsworth. Hey, Jenny, you're on WBAP.
Thank you for having me. I don't believe crap, and he needs to be punished. He knows the position that he was in. If somebody had threatened his life, he would have been throwing a fit. This is the president of the United States of America. Stop jacking around and acting like you're going to shoot him every other weekend. It's got to stop. And if we don't do this, one of these days it could happen. And as much as I hate most of the Congress up there, that goes for them too. If you threaten somebody in Congress, you go to jail. You've got to do something. Enough's enough. I don't know what else to do other than you've got to start.
Well, Jenny, hang on.
Jail for this.
So he should go to jail for posting the picture of 8647. Because I agree with you that his story's not believable, but I don't agree with that part. I don't think he should go to jail for doing that.
I do, because he knew what he was doing, and all it takes is one crackpot out there to go, I'll do that. I'll throw myself down and I'll be the hero for it. No, it takes one idiot from one stupid suggestion, kind of like what's been going on. 3 attempts. Enough's enough. They want something to happen to him. It's obvious.
Okay, but do you see how this would be used against you the second the Democrats are in power again? What do you think would happen to the James Show? I'd be thrown in jail within a month.
No, you wouldn't, because you're not. I've never heard you say, and I've never heard most people on the right say, we need to take somebody out. Meet them at the grocery store. Confront them at the gasoline station. Maxine Waters, when she did that, she should have been put in jail for that too. She was inciting riot. She was encouraging people to take out people that didn't agree with them. You got to stop. How else are we going to do it? There's no consequences. There are 0 consequences for this.
Yeah, but I should be able to say, I wish so-and-so was dead and not go to jail for it. Now, I don't think all threats are legal. If it's an actionable threat, something that could be pulled off, like if you're in the room and you have a gun in your hand and you're saying, I wish that guy was dead. I think that's assault. I think that's definitely actionable. But some guy on the other side of the planet who says, I wish James Parker was dead, I don't think he should go have handcuffs thrown on him and put in jail.
But you're not the president.
Okay.
You're just like me. We're not important people.
Okay.
But if you threaten the president, that's a big deal. If you threaten a police officer, that's a big deal. People in Congress, how do we start naming them? I don't know. We're going down a rabbit hole doing that. But if you threaten people, you need to see how much did they really want that to happen, or was what they did inciting riot and a wacko? What if a wacko did it? What if a wacko did say, I saw a sign on the beach that said 8647. I knew they needed me.
You know what? I think we found a nice little point of compromise. If there was an assassin and he said, I was specifically inspired by so-and-so's speech, maybe he should catch charges for that. Is that cool? Because I don't agree with you in the jail metric. I agree with you on about half of what you say, but I think you explained yourself well, Jenny. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Take some more calls here. This is David in Irving. You're on WBAP. Hey, David.
Hey, James. Just a couple brief things. First of all, his own explanation is laughable. He thought that meant to get out of somewhere, to get out of a place. So how does that even make sense? Let's get out of a place, 47. The other thing is it's scary to think of the nation's top law enforcement officer basically, not having an understanding of that phrase. I mean, God forbid he was listening to a wiretap as an agent and heard that they're going to 86 someone the next night.
We
somewhere
all know what that
and
means.
then
You know
it
what?
occurred to him.
That was a beautiful illustration you did there, because you're right. If they were wiretapping someone and they heard you need an 86 day guy the next day, we would all know what he's talking about. But I think he made it vague enough that we know that it's not his intention that he should be removed from the menu or taken out of the building respectfully. We all know what he really means, but I still don't think it rises to the level of a crime. I don't think it's an actionable threat. I think he left enough wiggle room in there that if it could be interpreted differently, then I'm just a softy for free speech.
I want to err on the side of free speech. I do think his intent, though, was with his broad reach and formerly having been in a position of great power and speaking to the deep state was. I think he was deadly serious. He probably knew he couldn't. Technically go to jail for it.
And I haven't played it in 20 minutes, so let me play this again. So Comey got charged with a crime this week for putting on social media 8647. He arranged some seashells, and they said that was an actionable threat against the president. This was his excuse last summer on MSNBC.
We were walking on the beach. We went to the beach to prepare for this week, which was the launch of my book, and to think about the book and to prepare to answer questions about it. And we were walking back towards the road, and we saw in the sand someone had arranged shells with numbers. And Patrice, my wife, said, "Why would someone put an address in the sand?" And I said, "I don't know." And we stood over it, and I said, "I think it's some kind of like political message." And she said, 86, when I was a server, she did a lot of work in restaurants, meant to remove an item from the menu when you ran out of ingredients. And I said, well, to me, as a kid, it always meant to leave a place, to ditch a place. I said, that's really clever. So then she said, you should take a picture of that. And I did. And I posted it on my Instagram account and thought nothing more of it until I heard through her that people were saying it was some sort of a call for assassination, which is crazy. But I took it down. Even if I think it's crazy, I don't want to be associated with violence of any kind.
Not believable. Oh, we just stumbled upon these pictures, and me and the wife, we had a nice conversation about the interpretations of what this could mean, none of which included the death threat against the president, which we all know was the intent, or at least the death wish, if not an actionable threat. Oh, and then my wife said, you know what you should do? You should take a picture of this and share it on social media. Oh, is that what I should do, wife? What a great idea. It's not believable. It's not believable. No one talks like that. You sound like a goober. You're obviously lying. You know what it meant. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. That being said, as scummy as he is, as much of a liar he is, he doesn't need to go to jail for this. I'll tell you what he needs to go to jail for next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, I hope James Comey goes to jail one way or another. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I don't think it should be for the 8647 social media post. I think the man should go to jail for lying to Congress about leaking the information to the Washington Post reporter, or I think technically he leaked it to his friend who is a professor at some college in Connecticut, if I remember correctly, who gave it to the media, who started the ball rolling falsely of the Russia collusion investigation. If that's not enough to send him to jail, the leaking of the info to begin with should be enough to send him to jail. So the leaking to start a collusion with bad intent, classified information, then lying about the Congress. But this was years before 8647. 8647 means nothing compared to what this guy actually did. And if you want to keep the ball rolling, he needs to go to jail for all the lying he did in the Hillary Clinton investigation, because in hindsight, it's clear to see a man who is that partisan, a man who wrote 8647, who openly not just wished for death upon Trump, but thought it would be mainstream and cute enough to make a fun little seashell picture and put it on social media. This was the guy that was in charge of bringing Hillary Clinton to justice. Well, that doesn't make any sense, especially what was going on in 2016. Oh, that's right. Hillary was running for president. So what you had was a Democrat partisan, dishonest hack running cover instead of Hillary Clinton really being investigated by a real law enforcement agency, by a real Justice Department, by real law enforcement. This political hack tanked the case and set her up in the 2016 election. Lied about it to Congress. Then, or after he set her up, then started the Russia collusion hoax, then lied about it to Congress. 8647, if he's going to go to jail for something, if it's that, fine. But that's like the 19th thing I'm concerned about with him. And his story makes zero sense. Oh, we just happened upon some shells that were already in the shape of a number. Did a human being put him there? Or did they just magically wash up and make that? It was providence from God. Brian in Mesquite, you're on the James Show. Hey, Brian.
Hey, I think maybe I'm surprised he didn't just say, "Hey, I got it confused with 6-7." You know, that was a dumb excuse that he came up with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he should go to jail for that, because I'm with you. I'm all for freedom of speech, but I would just like people to remember, you know, what they tried to do to Trump for the January 6th riots. Tried to, you know, throw him under the jail, and then he got banned from Twitter for his comments. You know, so it's I'm just, the Republican side, we always seem like we're playing defense instead of offense. So maybe it's about time we played some offense.
Yeah, well, how do you respond to the two wrongs don't make a right?
Yeah, I don't want to infringe on freedom of speech, but we need to start playing some offense and get ahead of this stuff, because we're reactionary all the time, it seems like, on the Republican side. I'm not so much worried about what's going to happen later when the shoe's on the other foot at this point.
Do we remember Trump's final tweet before he was kicked off of Twitter?
I don't.
Yeah. So the end of that, go home with love and in peace. Remember this day forever. That was the last thing he wrote on Twitter.
Just because he was saying we need to fight doesn't mean that we were literally needing to go out and fight somebody, you know, and I don't think Comey literally meant he wanted somebody to off Trump.
Now, before the Capitol got stormed, he said, this was one of his final tweets, not his very last one, but he says, "I'm asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful, no violence. Remember, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law and our great men and women in blue. Thank you." That's January 6th.
Yep, that's true. And we remember that Pelosi
denied the National Guard from coming out there, and it's like they wanted it to happen, and they were inciting it themselves.
Yeah, they need that. Just like the SPLC needed the violence to happen at Charlottesville. How many informants did they have in the mob? How many of them were pushing for that? Yeah, we all know. It's all kabuki theater. And you know how we know it's kabuki theater and it wasn't really a right-wing riot? Because there's no such thing as a right-wing riot. That's how we know. That would have been the first one in all of history. All right, I'm going to take another call here. Steve in Greenville. You're on the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, Steve.
Hey, I've got a different take on what 86 means. In the bar industry, it means to kick somebody out of the bar.
I've heard that. I've worked at bars. I've worked at restaurants.
Being said, I don't believe Comey's explanation. I don't know what the charge would be, but I think Comey should be charged for like dereliction of duty for not prosecuting Hillary because he had all the evidence. He admitted he had all the evidence in his testimony to Congress. So maybe he could be prosecuted for that.
Well, did you hear the montage I played a couple segments ago of James Comey back in 2016?
Yeah, that's
okay.
Exactly what I'm referring to. He said he gave all the evidence that they had against her and then said, oh, no, we're not going to charge her.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, you don't know how right you are if you missed that montage. But there's also been probably about half the audience who didn't hear it at this point. So I don't know. Should I play that again for the people who missed it?
So here's another thing.
Go ahead.
Is it okay if he just says we need to take Trump out?
Yeah, that can be I don't think so, because that, of course, could be interpreted as a death threat. It also could be interpreted as we should take Trump out of office.
Yeah, it can be interpreted both ways.
Yeah.
So, where do you draw the line?
Yeah, well, I think it has to be a specific.
The guy should be prosecuted because he was horrible.
Well, they teach you about this in gun class.
Director.
Hang on, Steve. So I don't have any legal training, but in gun class, they teach you what an actionable threat is, like when you are and aren't allowed to, justifiably defend yourself. And so someone saying 86, the James Show, I don't have the right to go defend myself and go just squeeze off around saying, hey, he was threatening me and end his life. But if a guy is saying, I'm going to kill you, and he's on the other side of the room and he's 4'10" and he's 86 years old, that's not an actionable threat either. However, if it's a big guy standing next to me and he's got a machete and he's like, I'm going to kill you, and he's not like smiling or joking, and we all know he's not reading from the script of some weird play, he means it. That's an actionable threat. And I don't think James Comey got nearly close enough to do anything illegal with the 8647, but he's done enough illegal stuff. He should be in jail anyway. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. All right, for the new people, I'll play that montage we mentioned earlier because it really does underpin the context of this entire case. So we'll hear more about the James Comey, and then we'll get an economics lesson coming up after that. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I like this Facebook message from Claire. Al Capone went to jail for tax evasion, so sometimes you take the ugly win. Okay. Claire, I'm convinced. I would be okay if Comey went to jail. This is the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I'm your host, James Parker. You're home from Marley Van Camp and Robbins. No, Claire, you know what? I think you're making a good point. If Comey went to jail for 8647, but not for the other stuff, not for tanking the Hillary Clinton investigation into emails, because she should certainly be in jail, not for lying to Congress, not for slipping the classified info to the media to start the Russia collusion hoax. If he doesn't go to jail for all that, then okay, it's not a big injustice if he goes to jail for 8647. But if none of this other stuff happened and this was all in a vacuum, no one should go to jail for 8647. That being said, his story doesn't line up. For people who are just joining us, we're talking about James Comey, the former FBI director, got slapped with charges this week, another indictment on top of all the other ones that he was already carrying. This is for the social media post where he made seashells in the shape of 8647. Like take out Trump. Isn't that funny? Get rid of the president. Just kill him. It'd be hilarious. His story is BS. Because if you didn't make the seashells, why would you care? Why would it matter if it was an actionable threat or a death threat against Trump? You would be sharing someone else's speech that would absolve you of trouble. Well, what if you did put the seashells together in 8647, but it wasn't intended to be a threat? It was just, this is a restaurant term, or this is a get out of here term. Then you would still be absolved. But the fact that you have to keep piling it on there, it feels very Jussie Smollett. Oh, they were wearing MAGA hats? What'd they do? Well, they punched me. Oh my God, they punched you. Yes, and then they threw bleach on me. Really? Yeah, and then they put a noose on me. Come on. This is the level of BS that keeps piling up, and it's just not believable.
We were walking on the beach. We went to the beach to prepare for this week, which was the launch of my book, and to think about the book and to prepare to answer questions about it. And we were walking back towards the road, and we saw in the sand someone had arranged shells with numbers. And Patrice, my wife, said, why would someone put an address in the sand? And I said, I don't know. And we stood over it, and I said, I think it's some kind of like political message. And she,
jeepers, what could that be? I think it might be a political message. This is how the little boy talked on Lassie. Like, oh, jeepers, I think she's trying to tell us something. What is that? What is that, girl? What? Timmy's stuck in a well.
86, when I was a server, she did a lot of work in restaurants, meant to remove an item from the menu when you ran out of ingredients. And I said, well, to me, as a kid, it always meant to leave a place, to ditch a place. I said, that's really clever. So then she said, you should take a picture of that. And I did. And I posted it on my Instagram account and thought nothing more of it until I heard through her that people were saying it was some sort of a call for assassination, which is crazy.
What?
I took it down. Even if I think it's crazy, I don't want to be associated with violence of any kind.
So you admit it was negative toward Trump, just not. I didn't know it was that negative. None of that's believable. Al in Plano, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, Al.
How you doing? I love your show.
Thanks, Al.
Okay, but you're a smart guy. Come on, man. You know they're not going to win this in court.
No, they're not going to. No, I agree with that.
Meat on the bone.
I agree. They're not going to win this in court.
I mean, why indict him on a loser? He's an outright loser from the beginning. You got other stuff, like you mentioned, when he made false statements about something that's actually actionable. But to indict him on this is foolishness. That's my honest opinion.
Yeah, it's foolishness. And my only pushback to that is I wouldn't have indicted him on this. If I was in the grand jury, I wouldn't have come back with a bill that said there needs to be a trial. But somehow they convinced the grand jury to go ahead and move forward with the case here instead of just throwing it out. So I don't know what they showed him or what they told him or what statute they're pointing at, but they convinced other people to do this. I wouldn't do it, Al. I agree with you. We have real charges that we can that we could focus on. This is a distraction. The only other sentiment that really makes sense to me is, you know what? I don't feel sorry for them, seeing as how they got so frivolous with lawfare when it comes to Trump, or when it comes, they were doing this under George W. Bush, like Scooter Libby and, going after Alex Jones. So, I mean, I don't feel sorry for them, just like I didn't feel sorry for the Republicans when Democrats started impeaching Trump just for basically nothing causes, because the Republicans, y'all started this with Monica Lewinsky. That wasn't an impeachable event, even though he lied about under perjury. He lied about an affair or, sleeping with a coworker, whoop-de-doo. So, no, I don't feel a whole lot of sympathy for the guy, even though I wouldn't have done this case myself. Does that make sense, Al?
Well, I agree with you because the bottom line is this, okay? Trump sometimes does things that always is puzzling. This is puzzling. Why would his DOJ waste time on a win case they will not win? Will not win.
Well, from a personal standpoint, it's got to be fun to make this guy suffer and dance and spend time and resources, and instead of enjoying his retirement and hanging out with Patrice on the beach, definitely not putting seashells into any numerical order. Instead of doing that, now he's got to face the same sort of lawfare hell that Trump's gone through for the last 3 years.
Well, you make a good point on that. I don't disagree, but like I said, I really love your show. I just thought I would, make my comment on this. They need to look for something they can actually get a conviction on. This is not going to work.
Agree. I like it. Thanks, Al. Sally in Irving, you're next up on the James Show. What do you think?
Yeah, I think all the 86 stuff, the menu items, etc., came from the same thing, which is the old mafia: rub him out, kill him, get rid of him. There wouldn't be any other temperate way of using it. Oh, drop the ice cream from the menu. No, it's get rid of it.
Kill.
It's the same word, and that's what he means.
Yeah, well, I don't know if
kill it.
I don't know if it started in the restaurant industry and moved to the mob, or started with the mob and moved to the restaurant industry. But any rational person, critical thinking, would see that, Sally. Yeah, of course he meant to get rid of Trump. Of course he meant to. And we don't think he meant of natural causes.
Exactly.
All right. Well, great call. Thanks for listening, Sally and Irvin. You guys doing great today. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Looks like I can share some more hot opinions on Comey from emails when we get back. But also, we're going to have to talk about economics a little bit, because this whole tax the rich thing got addressed on the Bill Maher show. And I think you're going to like what he actually had to say about this. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Before we jump back into the commentary from your neighbors about the James Comey situation, I want to remind you, WeatherCon is coming up this weekend. WeatherCon is this Saturday, 9:30 to 1:30, Frontiers of Flight Museum. I am a father, just like you. I got 4 kids. It's probably more than you. And I know how hard it is to find something that you can do with the kids that is educational, that is not caloric, stuff in your face, that is fun, and it's on the weekend. And here's the big catch. You're going to love this one. It's free. It's free thanks to our awesome sponsors. The big one is Blue Ribbon Roofing. They're also a James Show sponsor. So if you have any storm damage from the storms this weekend, you better call them first, get the free roof inspection, see what's going on. But if you're not familiar with WeatherCon, we've been doing this for, 6-7 years now? Oh, no, I didn't do that on purpose. I'm sorry. I did the thing. But it's actually cooler than it sounds. You go there, and there's going to be a bunch of booths set up with events for kids, and the freebies where the different sponsors and people who are weather adjacent share their wares. But there's also a lot going on for the kids. They get science demonstrations, and for the adults, especially if you're in any form interested in weather, there's a lot of cool stuff there. There's some meteorologists. Our guy, Brad Barton, and Pete Delkus from the TV station are co-hosting it together. You're going to get to see some of the weather chasers, those dudes that go run some SUV up into a storm. They have their modified vehicles for display. And then the Frontiers of Flight Museum is awesome on its own, and you get to go in for free. So if you just want to look at the space capsule or some of the old planes or read the walls and the history of airlines and whatnot, it's amazing. So I'll be out there. I would love to meet you. And the big one is you get to hang out with Hal J. First 200 people through the door get a swag bag with WeatherCon merch that includes this hat. Look, I brought the hat today, so if you're watching on the video feed, see the WeatherCon hat? Pretty sweet. I know. I already leaned on the promotions department training, and they got me one. And you don't have one, do you? Ha, ha, ha. Joe in Grapevine, you're next up on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP.
James, honor and a privilege, and I am so proud of you, my friend. Congratulations on the new ads that I've heard you on. I listen, and I encourage everybody to support our sponsors, because without them, this show, this station could not be possible. And I'm so happy to hear you are advertising for other stations as well as your sister stations. Is it Bruce or your boss or whoever? Congratulations to all of you. And patriots out there, I hear you. Such great calls from men. Love our women, passion callers as well. So support James here as well as the station. I had to say that, James.
I love you, Joe. You should call in every day. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, no, I'm sincere. That's something we all need to stand together on this. It's very, very important, because you couldn't be here, am I wrong, if we didn't have our sponsors.
Well, look, the good thing about being a free market capitalist pig is I don't have to act like I'm doing this just for the good of the people, or I'm doing this for the cause, or to make the world a better place. No, I'm doing this to make money for the people who are buying commercials between my segments, and I don't have to shy away from that. I have no shame in that. I don't think there's anything unethical or embarrassing about that. I don't get these people who are like, look, I'm not here for the money. I'm just here for the shut up. You're here for the money. You're not doing it for free. I'm not doing it for free. And look, as a free market capitalist pig, you should expect me to say, hey, buy everything you hear on the commercials. Just spend all your money with them. But no, your point stands that, look, we don't do this for charity. We don't have any pledge drives. We don't get any taxpayer money from the Leering Center or some scam. We get it because nice people like you, when you have something go wrong with your roof, you call Blue Ribbon Roofing. If you're having pain in your back, you call QC Kinetics. If your house is a little jacked up and you need to get it covered, you go to Rhino Shield. Absolutely, sir. Anyway.
Absolutely. Gutters too. And if you don't have it for yourself, think about the people and friends and family you know, they might need it. Thank you, James.
All right.
James, about Comey. He had to go to a grand jury, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. How do we know that they didn't find writings, text messages, things that he had said when he was a FBI director? And if FBI, he denied he didn't know what it meant. He claimed that it was some restaurant term. What if they found writings that he clearly used it and knew what it meant? What if that was said, and him being an FBI director, and he comes out and to act like that he didn't know what this meant, but yet he puts it on the internet.
No, I get it. Hey, that would change things. Good call, Joe and Grapevine.
Love you, James. Good, keep up the good job. I'm so proud of you, man. Keep it up.
Thank you, Joe. All right. James in Burleson, you're next up on the James Show.
Hey, James. James. Yeah, as you said, and he said, we don't know. I mean, mainstream media is making sure we get Comey's side of the story, as they always do, true to themselves. But we don't know what the grand jury's looking at. And if there's a history of him sending messages to foreign agents or agencies or whatever you will, then you add this to that, and he may be looking at some problems.
Man, I hope so. I definitely think the guy deserves to go to jail. Look, I have to be consistent on this show because I do not want to show up on the internet and see what happens to so many other people in the media where I say one thing today, but then 5 years ago, someone finds a clip of me saying the opposite. So I'm just being consistent here because, whenever this guy's out of office and the next Team Blue president comes in and he wants to go send someone to jail for the most transient and vague of threats, I will have established that, no, I wasn't cool when they did it with Comey. I'm not cool now.
Yeah, well, you got to consider his position and the things he's done in the past and the way he went after people for pretty much nothing. And I'll say it for you. We're not talking jail. We're talking military tribunals, Gitmo, firing squad, like that.
Oh, don't get me excited. Because I'm such a big fan of executions, and not that I think it's great that we are put in a terrible position where we have to kill criminals, but I think if we would refocus on the death penalty like it used to be 100 years ago, 150 years ago, that would solve a lot of our crime problems. We would really see a reduction almost immediately after the first public execution. One of the big drivers of crime is that not only do we not execute them, we let these people out over and over and over, like the dude who stabbed the Ukrainian refugee on the train. He'd been arrested like 23 times or something stupid like that. All right. Economics lesson coming up next on the James Show. This whole talk about high taxes. Bill Maher's going to come to your rescue? ? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. All right, we got one more comment on the Comey situation, then we're going to talk about your taxes. Man, some people just can't stop trying to raise your taxes. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP, your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. Our fun story for the last hour, James Comey got hit with a couple of extra charges this week for the 8647 social media post. He had written 8647 and seashells on the beach and then tweeted it out and thought, isn't this cute? So I guess you could vaguely interpret that as someone wishing death upon Trump. Comey's excuse is it's a restaurant term. Well, it could be both. But he's done enough illegal stuff. He deserves to go to jail. If he doesn't go to jail for all the actual illegal crimes that he did, I wouldn't lose any sleep if he went to jail over this. I wouldn't indict him for it. I don't think it's a crime. But I'm not gonna shed any tears for this guy. Dave in Hazlitt, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
Yes, sir. I just want to make the comment that I don't think it's necessarily about the post that Comey made so much as it gives him the opportunity to now get warrants for his mobile devices and digital message and email history and maybe discover other crimes in the process of investigating this one.
Wouldn't they already have access to some of that from the other charges he got for lying to Congress and et cetera?
I mean, if they didn't result in charges and jail time, then it must not have been good enough.
No,
he has for a more airtight opportunity.
No, David, he already has some charges that just came, I think, maybe around a month ago. It's still new, but he hasn't even been arrested and booked for this new indictment. But he has for these previous ones. So there's some charges floating around, but I feel you on that one.
I really do think it's a strategy to get warrants for access to alternative sources.
Man, it seems so weird that they need to get warrants and stuff when I have the montage of him lying to all of America 6 times in a row at the Hillary press conference. All right, David, maybe you're right.
You would think.
Maybe that is what it's all about. Thank you, sir. All right, time for a quick economics lesson. Remember I was playing you Mom Donnie a couple days ago? Boy, we got some budget issues in New York City. I mean, I've been in charge for 4 months, and I can't believe there's already a fiscal crisis. That's a record even for a socialist. But here he was saying, well, we only have one option, and that's we're just going to have to raise taxes on those evil rich people who aren't paying their fair share.
New York City faces a budget crisis of a historic magnitude. We inherited a deficit larger than any since the Great Recession. Years of mismanagement and chronic underbudgeting, alongside a structural imbalance between what New York City sends to the state and what we receive in return, have taken a toll. We cannot close this deficit with savings alone. We need new revenue, and we need a structural reset in our relationship with the state. That is the only way to meet our legal obligation to pass a balanced budget.
Have you ever heard a politician, especially on Team Blue, but I'm not even sure if I've heard a Republican say this, say we don't have a problem with revenue, we have a problem with spending? Have you ever heard a Team Blue politician say that? I remember Reagan saying that. I remember Clinton said the era of big government's over, but he still grew the budget every year, so he wasn't actually making any cuts. Have you ever heard that come from it doesn't matter how much they have. It doesn't matter how much they control. They always want more. You know, the New York City budget has grown by almost 50% since 2010. That's not enough. You still need more. You're getting 50% more than you were getting 15 years ago. The size of the city didn't double. In fact, the size of the city's almost static. But Bill Maher, a guy on Team Blue, who also happens to be rich, had a nice little comeback on his show on Friday.
This week was tax day, and as usual, because HBO is so generous, and I'm sure so will be the new owners, I paid to the government, if you add in state tax, local, sales, property, fees, Obamacare, probably almost 60% of what I earn. That's a lot, and I still wouldn't mind if Bernie Sanders would stop saying the rich don't pay taxes. And while I'm sure the super rich with their army of accountants and corporate loopholes get away with murder, us regular rich people pay a ton of taxes. The top 10% pay 72% of all federal income taxes, and the bottom half, 3%. The Democratic Socialists talk about socialism like we don't already have a lot. Social Security, unemployment, Medicare, nutritional assistance, Medicaid, Obamacare, disability, housing subsidies. Again, not against it, just the same question. How can you be soaking the rich and failing the poor so badly?
It'll never end until you make it end. They do not have a revenue problem. They have a spending problem. You should fight against every spending program. And I want you to think of that when you go to the ballot box on Saturday and there's all these stupid bonds that are all over the place. I was going to talk about Lancaster today, but I ran out of time. They have $191 million in debt, and that's just like a little 4A school. They want to throw on $736 million more dollars in debt. We don't have that. DISD has the largest bond package in Texas history. The city of Dallas wants to tear down City Hall, build a new stadium and a new City Hall. We don't have the money. And if you don't stop them, they won't stop on their own. You have to put your foot down. No new spending. In fact, cut spending, and definitely no new taxes. In fact, cut taxes. And until we demand it, we're going to get what we deserve. All right, thank you very much for hanging out today. A couple of reminders here. Number one, WeatherCon is coming up on Saturday, and I want everyone to come out there. I would love to meet you. 9:30 in the morning is when the doors open, and we will be there until 1:30 in the afternoon. So come on out, bring the kids, and it's absolutely free. Also, Rick Springfield, he's having his concert on May 2nd, Saturday as well. Tickets and information at arlingtonmusichall.org. And my friends the Toadies have a concert Saturday night as well. You can check that out at thetoadies.com. And thank you to the drummer for assisting me in the Hall of Fame judging yesterday. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.